everybody. Welcome back to the second hour of the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you today on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. You can stream them on am950radio.com. You can also stream me on Twitter at Santita J. And on the YouTube channel, my Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Hey, Andre. Hey, Bernadette. Hey, Robert. Everybody, please like and subscribe on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and my Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. Many of you are still trying to get in touch with me on the Santita Jackson page. No, please don't. I can't get any more friends there. They have a cutoff, and they're kicking people off, and I'm not doing that. That's what Facebook does. When you meet a certain threshold, you really have to go to what they call a fan page. So help me out, everybody. If you're on the Santita Jackson page, move on over to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. That's where my community is. That's where I'm engaging, and I'm doing more and more of that every single day. Whew. And of course, the Rainbow Push International Conference is the weekend leading into the Democratic Convention here in Chicago. August 15th, 16th, and 17th, you need to be there. Those people who are coming in to be delegates, those people who are coming in to just observe, those people who are coming in to participate in demonstrations. We want you to know that your home is Rainbow Push. Rainbow Push. Indeed, it's called Dr. King's Workshop because Reverend Jackson is following up. He is still working, even from a wheelchair, fulfilling his promise to Dr. King. He is pushing on the agenda and the assignment that Dr. King gave him 60 years ago. We got a lot of work to do, a whole lot of work to do. We're trying to figure out who's going to be the president. We do not know. But I tell you what, the guarantee is if you don't vote, it's going to be a problem. You got to vote. But I'm not going to beat Black people up in particular, and Hispanics and progressives about voting, not voting, because the fact is we do vote, but we've also been disappointed. But one of the things you have to learn in politics is you have to, number one, learn politics, learn how it really works. And then you work your way around the system. You get in it, and then you can change things. You can change things from outside and from inside. And you need both, quite frankly. Right? So let's think about that. And let's look at what's happening now within the Democratic Party, which could change American politics forever. Yeah. Of course, we were all stunned by the debate almost 2 weeks ago, in which we saw a clearly addled and struggling President Biden. And it's something, quite frankly, let us be honest, it's not something that was shocking or surprising. It was shocking that his staff let him go out there like that. Yeah, I'm saying it. But we rejoiced at the State of the Union address because he actually did well. Because we've seen him struggling for the past few years. That's just a fact. And I have to tell you, as someone, I have a brother who has bipolar disorder. I have a father who's got Parkinson's disease. I've had my own health struggles, and I've shared with many of you over the past 20 years, I've lost about 240 pounds, and I have struggled, okay? You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater because they have health issues. You don't do that. My thing is, as Reverend Jackson said in 1984, July 17, 1984, at his famed, iconic Democratic convention speech at the end of his first presidential run, he said, I'd rather have Roosevelt in a wheelchair than Reagan on a horse. I don't mind you struggling. Tell me so I can know what you're doing, so I can ask for updates. Everybody, people see Reverend Jesse Jackson out here every day. And then I get calls from people, how's he doing? I'm glad to see him out here. I'm glad to see him hanging in there. That's okay. But now you have the funders of the party. See, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, legal analyst from Court TV, but chair of Rainbow Push, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. You're seeing kind of how the sausage is made, and it's not cute, is it? No. We're seeing who really runs things, right? You can vote. I mean, President Biden got 14 million votes, y'all. He has 86% of the delegates. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've had my issues with him. You've heard me say that on this show. But the rules are what they are. And now you're talking about, okay, if we don't have him, we're going to leak past the vice president. Really? Is that how this works? All because the billionaire and 100 millionaire funders of the party have said so because they're upset. That's how I read it. They have now decided that Biden should leave, and it's all the corporatist, attorney C.K. Hoffler. It's very interesting because you got the black folks and the Hispanics and the progressives over here who've had to swallow some bitter pills, and they said, "But I'm riding with Biden." Okay, things haven't gone the way that I've wanted them to. Gaza, horrific. Voting rights have you. I needed an executive order. You said no. Justice and policing, you said no. And the killings of black people have gone up since George Floyd was killed a couple of years ago. So wait. We've got issues, but we're looking at the options. So now they're talking about having the Obamas and President Clinton and Taylor Swift and Oprah stand before us and conduct town hall meetings and have something called the Blitz primaries. You cannot make this up. What do you think about that? No. It's a real option. And so I want to know from you, everybody, what do you make of it? What do you think of it? Here is the Semaphore report. Blitz primary could open up Democratic race if Biden drops out. As the Democratic Party convulses, and this, of course, was published on July 7th by Morgan Chalfant, who is the reporter. As the Democratic Party convulses over questions about President Joe Biden's mental fitness, a pair of well-connected Democrats, hear me, is offering an optimistic plan that would involve the president stepping down as the nominee and the party announcing a Blitz primary, quote unquote, process ahead of the August convention. The proposal is the work of Rosa Brooks, a Georgetown University law professor who served in the Obama and Clinton administration and as a volunteer policy advisor to Biden in 2020, and Ted Dintersmith, a venture capitalist and education philanthropist who has donated to various campaigns. The idea goes something like this. According to a memo, and it's been a secret memo shared with Semaphore, that has been circulated to Democratic donors and bundlers, not to the voters, y'all, but to the donors and to the bundlers. Number one, Biden would step down as the Democratic nominee in mid-July and announce the new system. Texas Representative Reynolds, a new system, attorney C.K. Hoffler, and with backing from Vice President Kamala Harris. Potential candidates then would have a few days to throw their respective hats in the ring. The Democratic Party would then begin a primary sprint in which the six candidates who received the most votes from delegates who pledged to run a positive only campaign in the months leading up to the convention. Well, this Blitz primary would involve weekly forums with each candidate moderated by cultural icons. Michelle Obama, Oprah, Taylor Swift are among the names floated in the memo. In order to engage voters, the nominee would ultimately be chosen by the delegates using ranked choice voting before the start of the convention in Chicago on the 19th, and it would be announced with plenty of fanfare on the third day of the gathering. Wow. The memo imagines the nominee unveiled on stage with Biden, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton. How does that work for you, everybody? I want to know what that feels like. After 14 million people have voted, 86% of the delegates are pledged to President Biden. Now, oh yeah, was the primary open? No. Did they block people from running? Yes. He did it in 2020, and so you got to watch it, State Representative Ron Reynolds, because these things come back to bite you. Okay, attorney C.K. Hoffler, who will be on Court TV on Friday. So please pay attention and follow her at C.K. Hoffler, and let them at Court TV know that you want her to have a show. I'm putting it out there because she's brilliant, and why not? You have not because you've asked not. Yeah, I said it. They'd certainly have her on more and pay her a lot. Yeah, I put it out there. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. If I don't ask for it, I'm not going to get it. That's the guarantee. Okay. Now, if you're going to pick up all these other people who were not the president of the National Bar Association, the largest and oldest Black bar association in the world, more than 65,000 lawyers, the chair of Rainbow Push, someone who's helped to establish sovereignty in developing countries in Africa, someone who's completely French speaking and who speaks a couple of other languages. What do you want? I said it. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, talk to me about this Blitz primary. How does that make you feel? Maybe you'll get blitzed in your next election. Because it's
Well,
clear that the voters don't matter.
right.
Am I
Well,
reading this? Am I misreading this?
no, Santita, you're to me, you're spot on. I think first of all, let me say it's always great to be on your show, and I'm so honored today to be on with someone who should have her own court TV show, and attorney C.K. Hoffler, as a past president of the Houston Lawyers Association, a division of the National Bar Association. She led with excellence. She is an outstanding attorney, and she has all of the trappings that would make great for court TV. So I wanted to get that off my chest. So I second what you said. I think this notion of a blitz primary is something that they just pull out of the air. There's no real precedence for it. I think this is an attempt to deprive, if President Biden is not the nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris of being the Democratic nominee, which I think would be a very much a slap in the face. I think this would send a real message to African Americans and African American women, particularly who are the backbone, who have been the backbone of the Democratic primary. They've saved our democracy. It's Black women. And I think this would be a terrible precedent that would be taking place. And I would be vehemently opposed to it. Now, I'm a little biased. I've been on the record. I've came out front. Was probably, if you look at it, Santita, the first elected official in the country who came out publicly saying that President Biden should step aside after that horrendous debate. Not just because of the horrendous debate, because what I believe is diminished cognitive ability to lead for another 4 years. And I suggested that Vice President Kamala Harris is the nominee. And so these elitists, these people who are promulgating this notion of a blitz primary, they have someone else in mind, probably Gretchen Whitmer or Gavin Newsom or someone else that they believe that they can conjure up to be the Democratic nominee. So I think this is a way to pick another person. And I think this is their way of doing it. Here's the danger of it for a couple of reasons. One is, as I stated before, it would be wrong. But another fundamental reason is that based on the rules, if President Biden was not the nominee and President and Vice President Harris was not, then they could not use the massive war chest that has been from the Biden-Harris ticket. They would not be able to use that per ethics rules, and so then you would be starting from scratch in terms of raising money. So I think the only logical thing, if President Biden is not the nominee, would be Vice President Kamala Harris. And I'll say this final thing about this. I was outraged when I saw this post from I think it was the New York Post that said that Kamala Harris would be a DEI president. Mm-hmm. That is a slap in the face to her qualifications as vice president, as Attorney General of California, as a district attorney. I think this they're coming up with this acronym for DEI. Didn't earn it. That is a slap in the face to anyone who is African American that says that just because you're Black and you hold a position that you got it because you're DEI, because you're Black. Well, newsflash, we got it because we were overqualified. 9 times out of 10, we have to be twice as better as our white counterparts to get anything. And so most African Americans who hold positions, whether elected officials or attorneys or partners at law firms or engineers, whatever it is, they usually are twice as better because they know that they have to be to compete with their white counterpart. So this is a slap in the face. It is a dog whistle to the MAGA base. and we should all be insulted by it, and we should not laugh and say, "Oh, that's funny." It's not funny. It's an insult to our hard work, and those who paved the way for us to have these opportunities, those who made good trouble, those who sacrificed so that we could go to law school, so that we could go and matriculate to colleges and universities and earn degrees. And it doesn't even have to have a degree, but just who worked hard and who pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. So I find it very offensive. And I'm looking forward to continuing to speak truth to power and call out these racist, white supremacists, MAGAs who are trying to take us back. That's what they want to do. They want to take us back to the days where we were second-class citizens in shackles at the back of the bus. And that's where many of them want to take us. So that's the dark reality. And all of us need to wake up and not get comfortable and complacent with our jobs and our education and our income, because there are many people who really literally want to take us back. You all know this, from voting rights to women's reproductive rights to so many things. The Supreme Court has eviscerated the Voting Rights Act, and they're going to do more damage from a potential Trump second term.
Well, and I think what we need to do, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds and Attorney C.K. Hoffler, push back on DEI. The thing is, DEI is necessary. You've had a whites-only policy for several hundred years, and they didn't have to be qualified. When George W. Bush, President Bush, went to Yale, of which he is an alum, when he spoke there, he joked, "I don't know how I got in." Well, I know you got in legacy. How you got through, I'll never know. And he's someone who I know and like. You know that. Everybody knows the Bushes in Texas. He's good people. You just don't agree with his policies, but up close and personal, really nice guy. That having been said, don't play with me. Yeah, affirmative action has helped me. Yeah, DEI helps me, and it's going to help you. You're not going to hurt me without hurting yourself. You're not going to help me without helping you. Now you need to have more than you. Many of whom are underqualified and unqualified in the mix. That's why I gave you Attorney C.K. Hoffler's CV. And that was just a portion of it. I mean, if she were white, yeah, I'm saying they would just go, "Oh, please take the show. Oh, yeah. No. And it's offensive to me. I'm old enough to be offended by it. I've been in the media space. They make me jump through hoops. My father has made history running for president. I've been in the room. But what we want you to do, we want to make sure that are you joking me? You don't know what I know. How dare you? But this is the game that's played, and we need to stop playing that. DEI was put in place for a reason, because America doesn't look like the world. And that's why they're putting Black folks in these high offices, because you can't take all of these white people to these colored countries. Thank you, Meghan Markle. 94% of the British Commonwealth is colored. So they had to bring someone who's kind of that way, who's never embraced her Blackness before. They had to bring her there, who's now my sister. Child, please. Yeah, I said it. Attorney C.K. Hoffler.
Don't you just love Santita? Just love Santita.
Yeah, look, I'm a push real hard, because
I know, but I got
something has popped off in my head, because we've got all of these legal cases before us. I need you and your experience in the room and at the table. I'm tired of being on the menu.
You make I appreciate you. It's so great to have friends and people who believe in you, and so thank you for that. And to Representative Ron Reynolds, my NBAer, thank you for your kind comments. But I just have to pause and say to Santita, who is a freedom fighter in her own right. That's what I love about her. Yes, family legacy is important, and she definitely has it. But in her own right, she's magnificent, extraordinary, brilliant, and insightful in a way that you just don't see. It's so refreshing and is unstoppable. So that's what's great about Santita. She's completely unstoppable. And that's what we want to see. Now, getting to the question, Santita, that I think you posed.
Thank you. I receive.
Somebody sent me this.
Wait a minute. And we already got it unstoppable. Because see, I met him when he had run away to deny their crazy governor a quorum. I said, this poor man, he's away from his family. And they're proving this point. They're hiding out, trying not to get arrested in D.C. Could you leave your hotel?
I think Representative Reynolds, didn't I see you at the county at the thing? I was with Rodney Ellis
You did.
and Kamala and Vice President Harris. We saw you at the meeting, y'all. I said, I want to provide a safe haven for y'all.
Oh, yeah.
With you all there. People need to understand what that means.
Absolutely.
I just left Dallas. When I go to Texas, just like when I go to Florida.
Oh, you must be an AKA.
Well, no, I was at the Lynx convention.
Oh, the Lynx. Okay, got it.
Yes, I was at that convention, but it was just I made a point of staying in the hotel because the dialogue and discussion that you hear around is very disturbing, and we have to appreciate the kind of fight that you all have there in Texas, just like we have in Georgia and in Florida. But Santita, this is what I like to read very briefly. If he wins, speaking of Donald Trump, it will be the end of democracy as we know it. All institutions as we know it will be destroyed. Biden is old. Biden is a leader. Biden is not a threat to democracy. People aren't really worried about Biden's age. They're worried about if he wins and can't complete his term, then a Black woman will then be president of the United States. I'm voting Biden. So that's how I feel. That's how I feel. We know what Donald Trump offers. The one thing that's great about him is that he has a little plan. If you want to see the plan, a manifesto, read that Plan 25 thing that they put out.
2025 is right there.
2025. He will tell you exactly what he's going to do, which is what he's known for. He tells you what he's going to do and he does it. So shame on us if we don't read it and expect a different result. That's number one. Secondly, Santita and Representative Reynolds, I will say this. We just have to be smart about this. We know what the options are. We know what Joe Biden can and can't do and what he will deliver. We know what Donald Trump can and can do and will deliver, probably worse than what we're anticipating. So the options are clear. I think it is President Biden's decision whether if we are satisfied as a nation that medically, from a cognitive perspective, he can go forward, then that's all we need. The rest of it is he's got a team, he's got a crew, and in that crew, if you pardon me, you've got Vice President Kamala Harris, whose credentials are unimpeachable, impeccable. So forget DEI, but even if you call it the DEI at its inception is really giving credit to incredibly talented and overly qualified people of color, African Americans. So whatever they want to call it, the fear is Kamala Harris being president. It's not Joe Biden's cognitive. It's what happens if he gets in and something does happen from a medical standpoint, then this Black woman's going to become president. We need to call it like we see it. I think that's the issue. So I'm voting for the Biden-Harris ticket for whatever the eventuality is. And I don't think that President Joe Biden is going to step aside. He
can't legally. You know this better than anyone. You have to change state laws.
Right.
You have to go into all 50 states and the territories, change laws, get him on, reconfigure the ballot, which is not going to happen. Okay. I mean, not to mention the fact that, wait a minute, y'all, back this up. It helps you to understand how the sausage is made, CK. Representative Reynolds, Attorney Hoffler. You can vote all you want to, and you should vote. And because you're voting, you have a say in this. You ought to ask the Democratic Party, how could you betray me like this? How could you let some people float a memo that you all would deign to perhaps act upon because some donors have said, Abigail Disney said, I'm not going to give you another dime. Because, Ari Emanuel said, we got to get rid of him. He said this a few weeks on a stage, right after the debate. Okay, y'all, wait, hold up, wait a minute, wait, stop. So you come up with a plan to throw 14 million votes away on the say-so of funders, bundlers, and the right wing of the party. What's going on here? I mean, Ron, am I misreading this?
No.
What is this? Because you have black people, Hispanics, progressives over here who saying I'm riding with Biden. Y'all can't throw this process overboard. And then you're gonna give me Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, all of whom I like. But you're gonna go past the vice president? What? I mean, on principle, beyond the color, okay? On principle, that's wrong to me.
Yeah.
I don't understand this.
There's no way to really justify it. I think it's, very elitist. I think it's another form of white privilege to think that they could pull something out like that off. And I have to again remind, the Democratic Party that African Americans have been the backbone of the party. But more particularly, when you drill down to it, there's been no more loyal demographic than African American women. It's been proven. And so this would certainly be a real potential backlash for the party that would cause irreparable harm, that would be long lasting if they were to do this. This could something that could really crush the Democratic Party for the foreseeable future. And so I caution the party leadership to not acquiesce to the donors. I mean, that's a lot of pressure because these are some billionaires that are very big donors, and so they do get heard when they speak because of the amount of money that they contribute to the party, to PACs where there's no campaign contribution limits because of Citizens United. They are the bunglers when it comes to IEs, independent expenditure campaigns, where they can write a check for $5 million, $10 million, $20 million, whatever they want to do to fund a campaign. And so these are the people that are speaking. These are the people that are trying to reset the rules of engagement. And so we have to, and that's, Santita, that's why it's so important that we're having.
Okay, you locked up. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, we're going to bring you right back on. We've got John Nichols from the Nation with us. CK, I know that you're going to have to leave shortly. But Representative Reynolds, you were talking about the bundles.
Not be asleep at the wheel and being.
Okay, Representative Reynolds, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, I guess I had froze up for a second. I said that's why it's so important that we're engaged in the discourse and are speaking truth to power and are willing to be on the front line, even against the big donors. We have, no matter who they are, we have to speak truth to power.
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, because this is so offensive, because I tell you what trumps all of that, no pun intended. Reverend Jackson came in with no money, but voters, millions of voters.
Yep.
And he frightened the party, Republicans and Democrats, the whole establishment, because you saw the power. And one of the persons who helped him to register these voters, my parents, took him on as a son because he was a child and they were worried. No, because we had some young people like Cleo Fields who we were all kids. This was the first time we voted. And so you saw these people coming out of nowhere, seemingly, who were like, we're with you, Reverend. But my point is, John Nichols, Nation magazine, of course, New York Times bestselling author. I think we continue to underestimate the power of the people. And so, it's offensive to me to have Abigail, Disney, and the co-owner of Netflix and all these people just come up and say, oh, this is a horrible debate, so now we're going to change the whole system. You're going to throw out 14 million votes? Are you for real right now? And I've had my issues with President Biden, but I don't like you doing this. This is not right. But explain this Blitz primary. I know you got to go, CK. We're going to get you on. But before you do leave, everybody, she'll be on Court TV on Friday. And so please check her out there and let Court TV know that you want her to have a show. It's very important. Look, you know what, everybody's tee-hee, but I'm serious. You have not because you've asked not. And because we have not pushed and pressed, that's part of the reason. We've got to do it because I need her voice. I need her voice there. So John Nichols.
Mhm.
I'd like to see you on regular TV too. I would, because I want to hear a perspective other than the corporate perspective, John. Because now I'm seeing the corporate media, they're supporting this, but they're not really explaining what the Blitz primary
Mhm.
is. And I need you to help us to understand what we're looking at.
Well, I'll do it quickly because I also want to hear what CK says, and also CK does need a show. I think Court TV is a great place. She might need one on an even bigger network if possible, because what the networks are doing right now isn't all that great. Look, here's the bottom line. This Blitz primary thing is a creation of people who have long lunches in Washington, right? This is not a creation of grassroots activists or something that's bubbling up from the people. And it's bad theater, to be honest. What it is a concept that Joe Biden would stand down, he would release his delegates, and then they would create a series of sort of high-profile events, right? They'd certify a group of candidates. DNC would probably do this, although they're kind of vague about how it would happen. Certify a group of candidates, and then they'd go around the country for, Phil Donahue, Oprah Winfrey style events, right? The candidates would sit around and somebody would walk among them with a microphone, and it'd be very theatrical and blah blah blah, and somehow this would focus a lot of attention. It probably would, to be fair. And then you'd go to the convention and the delegates would choose a nominee. Now, two things are wrong about this. Number one, calling it a primary. It's not a primary. There's no primary. No voters are coming to vote in a primary in, Wisconsin or Illinois or New Hampshire or Nevada. So there's no primary. This is simply a phrase that was created so that people would think that somehow there's a small d democratic participation in this process. Now, here's a couple things also that need to be remembered. None of this happens if Joe Biden doesn't decide to stand up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we've got is a lot of people planning a process that can only happen if the president of the United States decides he isn't running for another term. Now, look, I'm going to tell you, I was with the president on Friday in Madison, and I've written a lot about my feeling that the president's campaign is not going well. Look, the debate was a mess. The George Stephanopoulos interview was very poorly done by George Stephanopoulos. And the president.
Well, wait a minute. What's your critique of George?
Oh, I've known George for a long time, and I have a lot of respect for him. But you don't do an interview with someone where you are asking them about the most intense personal questions about their capacity and things like that. You don't immediately start with that question, right?
Mm-hmm.
You set up a line of conversation. You say, how are you doing? You then say, we just had this rally here. What do you think about that? You build it in because you get the person talking with you at a human level.
As opposed to holding up a shield.
Right, exactly. And so what George Stephanopoulos ended up with was a situation where he asked the same question 20 times, right? And got frankly, from the president, imperfect answers. The president didn't do all that well himself, but it was a very poorly done interview. The president is now doing small rallies in small venues with party loyalists. That's not a way to break out of this cycle. So the president's got challenges. That I'm not here to, say everything's going great. But ultimately, like it or not, it is his decision whether he stays in this race or whether he leaves this race. All of this discussion about what comes after he leaves, right, is sort of, it's like people playing video games or some elite. It's just got fantasy, right? Now, our friend Jim Zogby, who has been on the DNC for a very long time, has very respectfully, very thoughtfully said, yeah, there is a process within the DNC. If the president were to step down, there are ways to do this, and there are ways to do it that are, as small d democratic as possible, although still, quite challenging in that. But the Blitz primary thing is really just it's kind of media trying to justify the demand that Biden go by saying, oh, here's a way to go to the next thing. The better debate to have, the better discussion to have right now is, I think, does the president want to keep running? If he wants to keep running, and this is, by the way, we're asking a lot, right? Because if he keeps running, he's going to be under constant scrutiny. There's nothing easy about this. It's tough. But does he want to keep running? If he wants to keep running, well, that's the end of that discussion, because you're not going to replace him there. If there is, on his part, a desire to leave, well, that's another issue. But there's a third route that we ought to be talking about, and this is perhaps the most important thing. Right now, his campaign is terrified. They are freaked out. They are not positioning or handling themselves well in this circumstance. And the result is that it's not the kind of campaign that is sufficient to beat Donald Trump. And so if Biden's going to keep running, he needs to run a different and better campaign. And that's a real discussion to be had. That's a strategic discussion that, makes sense, rather than having, complex discussions about how you replace somebody who isn't going to be getting replaced. So I'm not here to tell you that everything's great. It's not. Things are tough. This is a very hard situation. But what I am here to tell you is that the core focus right now is on whether Joe Biden wants to continue to run. If he does, then that is the next question. How do you run the most effective campaign, right? Not get deviated off into all sorts of other discussions. And I think a lot of it will be resolved this week. The president's press conference on Thursday, following the NATO summit, is going to be huge, right? It will be, I think, in many ways, the equivalent of the debate. He will need to perform well. He will need to get up there and impress people. But here's the interesting thing. He has had moments like this before. And I think it's very important to remember that before the State of the Union address, an awful lot of pundits had Joe Biden written off. If you were listening to discussion, you thought Joe Biden, it's hard to imagine that he could even get to the podium for the State of the Union address. Instead, he gets there, delivers a stellar performance, kind of shuts down the critique, shuts down the criticism, and there you go. So does Biden have the capacity to have a moment that really shifts this thing? I think he does. We'll see. Thursday's the test. If he does very poorly on Thursday, this discussion is going to continue, right? But that's I think the stuff we ought to be focused on, a little bit less on talking about replacements and things like that. And by the way, if there is a replacement, I will tell you this: I cover politics for a living. It's going to be Kamala Harris. Period.
Well, how can they? But how they continue to throw out Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom, and I mean, because I have to tell you, I'm feeling some kind of way about that.
Yeah.
I really am. Now, mind you, the closest to that, and you do politics, help me with this. Okay, you had Johnson, who said on Thursday, March 31st, 1968, on Sunday, I'm not running, won't accept it. Dr. King is killed on Thursday.
Yep.
And then 6 weeks later, Robert Kennedy, who then had clobbered everyone in California, you're like, oh man, I think he can take this in Chicago. Then, he's killed. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then, but you still had the fight at the convention.
You had McCarthy running, McGovern in a lesser campaign. There was still an effort to do an alternative to Hubert Humphrey. The convention decided to go with Hubert Humphrey, and they lost.
So what would it look like? But first of all,
here's the bottom line. Simple reality is, I've interviewed Kamala Harris a number of times. I can tell you that the vice president is, she's actually at the top of her game right now. She is defending Joe Biden and arguing for going forward. But she's more than that. She has grown immensely, as anyone would, in the office of vice president. She is now someone who has been a prosecutor, a U.S. senator, and the vice president of the United States. So look, she is in a position where if Biden were to stand down, she is, by any measure, if you had an open process, she's the front runner. If you have a handoff, she is the natural person. That is the reality of the situation. Doesn't matter whether you like her or dislike her, agree with her or disagree with her. That's not the point. I mean, this is just a simple reality that she is in this position. And to have the discussion about other folks, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. If somebody wants to step up and say, I'd be a better candidate, great, have that process. But the reality is that it would end with Kamala Harris as the nominee to follow up on Joe Biden. And I will tell you this, if that were the case, Kamala Harris would electrify the country. I mean, she would, that moment would be a very electrifying moment, I happen to think, because I think there's an awful lot of people who would rally to her. So that is not to say, oh, Biden's got to go and blah, blah, blah. What it is to say is that there are kind of natural progressions here, and people that are uncomfortable with that, you have to really ask them, I mean, are you uncomfortable with that, or are you uncomfortable with, the reality of where the Democratic Party is at this point and what it's become? Because Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were the nominees at the last convention of the Democratic Party. They are the people that the primaries were won by. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you break this chain, this process, right? And so what I would suggest is that, again, focus goes back to Joe Biden. Does he want to continue to run? If he wants to continue to run, he will be the nominee. If he chooses not to continue to run, there will be some process to replace him. That's not a hard thing to do, right? I mean, convention, you have the delegates chosen, the DNC is in place. This process can easily be done. Whether you call it an open process, whatever you call it, the delegates will vote at some point. And my sense is that they will either vote to renominate Joe Biden, who I think that is the likely process here, or if Joe Biden were to stand down for whatever reason, then my sense is that by an overwhelming majority, they would vote to nominate Kamala Harris. And that's the baseline reality.
I'm hoping that, it's because, but I tell you, I'm very disturbed by, even though I knew that this was how this worked, I'm glad now that the quiet part is being said out loud. You see the outsized role that bundlers and handlers and
they want to control the process,
because
they think they have purchased the process.
There you go. And I think that's why we have to amplify Blitz Primary and push back on it as the people, because they've captured the party.
Right. The one last thing I'll say very quickly, because I don't want to go over on this, but very quick concept is that if for whatever reason it goes to the convention, those delegates were chosen to nominate a candidate, right? And they will be under immense pressure from all sorts of forces. But the pressure that they ought to be under is from the people that elected them, right? So if you have several thousand delegates, the best recommendation is go home, talk to the people that elected you, see what they say, right? That's the bottom line. Don't let everybody get in Chicago and then a bunch of very wealthy, very powerful people go into a back room and produce a candidate. Because the fact of the matter is, when they do that, as they did, by the way, in 1952, when Harry Truman stood down, we got a candidate, and that candidate lost badly.
Well, when you subvert democracy,
you end up losing.
You lose. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, I know you're running today.
I am running.
Okay, last couple of minutes belong to you.
Well, I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you, John, and to Representative Reynolds for your insight. I agree. The bottom line is it's Joe Biden's decision to make. It's just very simple. Either he says, I'm going forward, and then the party has got to fold behind him and go with it, understanding that if for some reason he does not finish his term, Kamala Harris is going to be president of the United States. Period, under discussion. And when people had the trepidation and thought the party was going to fall apart and the world was coming to an end, if Biden put her on the ticket, look what happened, they won. I mean, literally people said, oh my God, democracy is ending. If we put Kamala Harris on the ticket, that will be the destruction of the Democratic Party. They have no shot at winning, and we can kiss the United States goodbye. And not only did they win, she's been a very, very good vice president. And so I just think we need to vote. We need to look at the reality, allow the president the time to make his decision, which I think he's doing. Once he does that, we need to stop with all these intellectual gyrations and stand behind our leader if we are Democrats and be about the business of winning the election. If we have some trepidation, okay, then go through the gyrations. But the party and all these different groups and this that are going to meet and high power this, forget about that. We got to stand behind our candidate once he makes his decision, one way or the other. And I think it's good for the DNC to have in place a process in the event the president decides, I'm not going forward. But let's not be cute. The person who's going to step in and be our leader at that point has got to be Kamala for us to be able to pull it off. And forget about, oh, I don't know if a woman, we can't, the black, the Indian, forget about all that. She's our candidate because she's the only one, if the president steps aside, who would give us a shot at winning. And she has the fighter instinct to be able to annihilate a Donald Trump. Period, under discussion.
Well, you know what? Attorney C.K. Hoffler, she will be on Court TV on Friday in Las Vegas at the National Bar Association. She is President Emeritus. Sending you so much love. I'm glad that you are here. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, we have a few minutes left here, but I've got John Nichols going to squeeze every little bit. But you know what? I want to hear your reaction, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, because you're an elected member of, we met him, of course, John Nichols, when he was running away, trying to deny his governor a quorum. And
that's right.
And so what do you make of this as you go into the barbershops? Because, John, a lot of Democrats are in denial. They're denying. Well, I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. The black community.
Let me say, I think a lot of Democrats are in pain.
They're in pain, but I'm telling
hard.
you, it's hard. But beyond him, I'm hearing young black people, young black men in particular, who are hemorrhaging to Trump.
Right.
And to act as if that's not happening. Oh, that's not happening. No. Stop. Maybe you're working with the party. I got it. I'm a Democrat. I'm just trying to tell you, I don't come from a place of judgment with people. I want to hear what's on their minds, John. I can't even have a discussion with you if you don't. If I come from a place of judgment, and then I put up the wall. What did you say with George Stephanopoulos? He did put up the wall. So Biden was on the defensive through the whole interview, and I'm sure the interview was abbreviated.
Well, also, you didn't get from that interview the discussion you needed. You didn't get the discussion you needed. And the one thing I would emphasize before bringing Ron in here, because Ron will have so many good things to say. The one thing I will emphasize is this: Democrats are hurting. They are. And I was at the Biden event in Madison. I've talked to people. I mean, it's all anybody's talking about, right? This is a big discussion. And they saw their candidate for president have a very difficult debate. They are now struggling with the question of his capacity, right? Yeah. And that's a terrible place to be. Families go through it all the time, right? You've got an older family member who's just not doing so well. And you're wrestling with, well, is this just a brief episode? Is this something else? And I can't tell you how many sincere people on all sides of this debate, right, on all sides of this discussion, are really trying to figure it out and really trying to deal with it. The challenge on it is that at this point, there is the other reality that Donald Trump in a week will be nominated for president of the United States. And he's going to turn that convention into a big theater, and he's going to dominate that week. He's going to nominate a vice presidential candidate. And it is not a time at that point for Democrats to be uncertain about where they're headed, right? And if they are uncertain about where you're headed, this brings us to that core thing you're saying. I think a lot of people may say, well, yeah, the Democrats don't seem to, they're all wrestling with each other and fighting with each other. And there you have Donald Trump, and he's strong, and he just got nominated, and blah, blah, blah. And I think his numbers could go up significantly.
Absolutely.
Right. So the Democratic Party has a very short window in which to get its act together.
Well, you know what? Stop offering up
confidence together.
And stop offering up Karine Jean-Pierre as a sacrificial lamb.
Oh.
Yeah, no. Be honest. My father has Parkinson's. You couldn't see him as the condition became more apparent and him not say it.
Yeah.
When I had weight loss surgery, my father called Michael Moore from my hospital room. He said, the Lord has saved you. You have a responsibility to tell them about this new surgery. Now, I'm not at 40, not going to start dropping all this weight and that's not going to help you to keep it off, everybody. We'll have another discussion about weight loss surgeries because there are things that you have to do. You have to eat a certain way. You have to exercise, all of that. Otherwise, the weight is not going to come off and it's not going to stay off. Okay. But he felt that as a member of a public family, I had a responsibility to share.
Mm-hmm.
He said, because you can save someone's life. As someone who saw you sick and struggling, Renee Ferguson, thank you. She came to you and said, hey, I found something that I think might work for you. The last thing I wanted to do was have surgery. I got a brother who's got bipolar disorder, who's now getting his PhD in systemic theology because he's brilliant. Reverend cognitively is still here. He just can't get it out. Mm-hmm. John Nichols, New York Times bestselling author, national correspondent for The Nation magazine, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. Just say it. This is not episodic. It's chronic. We're clear on that. That's why we were worried about him when he gave the State of the Union address. I can live with you struggling with your health. Mm-hmm. And in fact, you know what? Talk to me about it so you can tell me because you might help me. Mm-hmm. And then you know what? You say it. I'm over it. And you know what? Reverend said, you were there July 17th, 1984. Said, I'd rather have Roosevelt in a wheelchair than Reagan on a horse. I can live with that. Say it. We see it. Stop. That's part of the pain that we're in because we're like, you're telling me I'm not seeing what I'm seeing. Stop it.
And I think, look, if I can just, one last thing here, it is, there does need to be an acknowledgement of that pain, right?
Yeah.
That Democrats, understand, people who are grassroots Democrats around this country are not always in big cities and they're not always in easy places to campaign.
Thank you.
They're often in small towns and rural areas, and they're trying to keep that banner of that party up. And it is difficult at times, right? Because they got a lot of neighbors who are telling them, saying horrible things about them, right? Politics is very intense, very personal. And at some point, any political party has to give them the support they need. Mm-hmm. What is the support they need? It is clarity from the top, right? It is a sense that they know what they're doing and they're going to go forward and do it. And one of the reasons that Roosevelt in the wheelchair survived so well politically was that people were confident. They were more confident maybe even than they should have been, but they were confident that he could do it. In fact, my father was at a military base on the day that Roosevelt died. And he said, grown men were walking around in complete confusion because they had no idea what to do if Roosevelt wasn't president.
Absolutely.
They knew him as their president. And the reason I say that is that Joe Biden, this is the time for Joe Biden, if he wants to continue this race, right? Do his NATO summit, do his presidential stuff. And then that man needs to get out on the campaign trail, and he needs to get out there in a great big way. He came to Madison, had a rally in front of 300 people. He should have had a rally in front of 30,000 people. You just got to do it. And if he stumbles, and if it's difficult, and if it's imperfect, you laugh and you go forward, right? If you know what I mean? And once you gotta go, but you can't run a half campaign.
And you can't run away.
You can't run a scared campaign.
Yeah.
And this is the thing I've been saying again and again. If you're in, you got to be all in. And with that, because I've said so much, I want to hear what Ron says.
Ron, I got a couple minutes before we got to.
Well, hey, it's hard to compete with what John is saying. I second that. But here's, Santita, I think what you're saying is we want transparency. People like the fact when people are straight up and they're candid and they're open, because we've already seen with our own eyes. We can't unsee what happened on that debate stage, right? You can't pivot and say, "Oh, that was just one bad performance." No, it was more than that. And I think that if there was some honesty and there was some candidness, then that would go a long way than trying to pivot. We have a tendency just always to pivot or to not really answer the question. I think we should be real. He's put his press secretary in a very precarious position.
Horrible.
Horrible position. I mean, I feel so bad for her.
It's
She held-
damaging her. It's damaging her reputation.
absolutely her credibility, but and I mean, she's taking it for the team. But it certainly, I mean, we're like, come on, be straight with us. I mean, shoot straight with us. I think people appreciate it more when you're honest and real than lying to them and they know you're lying. They're like, okay, look, man, just stop, just quit it.
Ron, let me tell you this. When people see my father, who's now in a wheelchair,
Yeah,
when they see him, I've seen people cry.
Sure.
I've seen people more than anything say, I'm glad he's still out here fighting.
That's right.
And you know what? Then they want to help.
that's
They're
right.
like, wait, people are running. Okay, well, they always did this because this is what you do with the pastor. Well, what can I get him to eat? And can I put the pillow back? But you know, if you sit him right here, because you know, when my mother and my grandma, people will help you
Yes.
when they
Yes.
see you trying to
Yes.
make it. They don't mind that. It's not your illness. We need to stop stigmatizing people
That's right.
who are struggling.
That's
Like,
right.
when I hear Biden stutter, I hear my brother Jonathan. Oh, it can make me cry. Jonathan, who's in Congress now, he stopped speaking as a child because his stutter was so profound. Jesse spoke at double time. Jonathan spoke at halftime. So our parents said, everybody stop speaking. We have to wait for Jonathan to speak.
That's right.
Now he's got a growing reputation as a great orator. You don't know how God's going to use you. I mean, Moses had a stutter. I don't care about that. I just need you to be honest with me, and then I can work with you. I can defend you and say, hey, man, give him a break. Reverend did an interview early in his diagnosis. He was struggling with his speech. It was on Fox.
Mm-hmm.
People started trying to ream him on social media. Extreme right-wingers was like, stop, man.
That's right.
You got Parkinson's. Don't do that.
That's right.
And you know what? It changed the conversation in social media. They were like, you know what? Oh, you know, you're right. I'm sorry. Just stop. We know you're struggling. It's okay. Now that you're struggling, how can I help you?
That's exactly
Jill,
right.
how can I support you? Hunter, even.
And
how can I help Ashley? All y'all. Because I know if he's struggling, I know all of you are. And we are too. We're going to help him. Run, Joe.
And
I carry it on my shoulders.
Santita, I think you're right. That would help with the credibility issue that he's having right now. There's a credibility issue because people are like, you're not being honest. You're not being transparent. They're trying to, what else are you covering up? That's what they start saying. Well, what else are you covering up? What else are you hiding? So I think that they need to really reassess the way that they're messaging this whole thing because it's not working. It totally isn't working. And that's the only, and then to me that builds distrust. And then either people say, well, you know what, I'm not for Trump, but I'm not going to vote for Biden either. I'm just going to skip it.
You can't call Trump a liar.
Correct.
You can't. What you can do, I mean, the thing is, if you just tell me, then you know what, I know Parkinson's. I saw him with it, and it manifests itself in a lot of different ways, John and Ron. But it's like, okay, if you just tell me, then then I do a reset in my thinking about how I perceive you, and
that's right.
Now I can move forward.
I think that's right, and I think that again, I'll go back to the Stephanopoulos interview, which I just think it didn't work, right? It didn't work on an awful lot of levels, and I would hope that, and it's not to beat up on George. I think George Stephanopoulos was in a very difficult position, and you know they turned it into this kind of like big TV presentation. Here's the bottom line: the president should do a lot more interviews. He should do a lot more rallies. He should do a lot more events. There's not a middle ground here. You can't run a rose garden strategy. You can't kind of sit in the White House and say, oh, I'm doing my job. Of course he's doing his job. I know that. But he's got to be physically out there and people got to see him. Is he going to make mistakes? Is he going to stumble? Well, if he's Joe Biden, he is, because he's been doing that his entire career. Joe Biden is famous for, you know, the offhand remark, the stumble, the whatever, you know, the imperfect statement, right? That's who he is. And you know what? That's who America elected as president. Mm-hmm. They elected him because they liked him as a human being. They knew that he was like a lot of people.
Me.
Well, he was sincere. He he said things, in the way that it came to him. And as long as he does that, people are going to be not just forgiving, but also, relieved, frankly, if they see Joe Biden out there doing the job. But this is a big deal because unfortunately we're in this game now where we think it's a binary choice, right? You either are in the race, right? Or you're out of the race, right? You're either running for president or you're not. And that's all we can say about Biden. No, there's a third route here, which is you're in the race in a much stronger, better way than you have been in it up to this point. And that is what I'm saying is if Joe Biden wants to continue to run, he's got to run different and better, right? Because people did see something, as Ron says, in that debate, right? That made them ill at ease. The answer to that is not to be super controlling and super cautious. The answer is to say, yeah, had a bad night. Let's go. I'm going to have 10 more nights right now. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to come on Santita Jackson's show. I'm going to do a 60 minutes where they actually sit me down for a long time and we talk a lot. I'm going to do a whole bunch of things. And I'm going to go to a rally in Ron's district and say, you know what? Far from withdrawing into this cautious, narrow way of campaigning, I think we're going to try and win Texas this time, right? And do a little more of that. Be aggressive and forward-looking rather than, cautious and in the bunker, like scared and in the basement, uncertain about what to do. His campaign right now is not doing him any favors. They're not doing him any favors because they're just being a little too cautious. And the answer to when people are questioning whether you're up to it is not caution. It's, energy.
I'm struggling like you're struggling.
Yeah.
But you know what? Every day I'm getting up and I'm fighting for you. Just like you got on that bus stop at 4 a.m.
That's right.
And you didn't feel well. And maybe you felt a lump and you're scared to death, but you kept on going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your heart was hurting. Maybe you had chest pains, but you kept on going. Hey, I know how to do it. Let me write the speech for you, buddy. Say, hey, you know what? I kept on going because I'm fighting for you. You know what? I'm stumbling. You can't understand me sometimes. Maybe I'll have to have my son or my wife or Kamala Harris speak for me. But you know what? Know that I'm pushing for you. In my last lap, that's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People will say, I got you.
Yeah.
And that's
what you want him to say, Santita, is if it's the last lap, in my last lap, I'll run with you.
That's right. And would you run with me?
Yeah.
Y'all, would you run with me?
And
you know what we'll do? We'll say, you know what? I'm going to do one better, Joe. I'm putting you on my shoulders. I'm going to carry you. Because
I will tell you that again, we go back to, and I have to go, and I bet you Ron's got wise final things to say.
I've gone over, but it's okay.
But I will tell you this. It is also Joe Biden's right to decide not to do this. Yeah. And I say this bluntly. He has won his party's nomination. He has the delegates. If he chooses to continue, he can continue. And in my view, he should continue far more aggressively than what he's doing right now, right? If he chooses to stand down, that is also his right. Mm-hmm. And he would do so, I think, with great respect. People would respond very, very well to either route that we're talking about here. But the route that you don't want is the one where you keep talking about it for another 6 months. That's the one that's going to do you in. You can stand down, hand it off to a very capable vice president. You can carry on and run a far more aggressive, far more intense and passionate campaign. But what cannot be done is, months and months of focus on weakness. That's not going to work.
This makes him look weak. It makes Karine Jean-Pierre look weak. And it makes them look like they are not truthful. And that is what is damaging.
Yes.
So when Ron Reynolds goes into these barbershops and talks to the people, they're telling him, you can't call Trump out about being a liar. And quite frankly, for Black folks who are rounded up today and Latinos who are rounded up today, the whole he's a felon, that ain't working over here. I'm just trying to let you know what's up.
Mhm.
Because everybody's got a felon in the family. And most of the unconvicted felons are in Washington, D.C., and they're on Wall Street. So, and we know this too. So we're like, please. And they're in our courthouses. We know that. So stop. The fact is, when I go to the grocery store, I can't afford my groceries. And the cashier absolutely cannot afford to buy the groceries that they're ringing up for you.
Well,
Let's talk about it, y'all. I mean, and let's talk about the fact that you know what? Nobody's 100% of the time. Just say it. Say the quiet part out loud. And then you know what? I can move forward and let these donors know they need to keep their place, and it's just one vote.
Santita, I am afraid I have to head on, but I
I
will.
love you.
I will say, and I love you more. And I will say that, and I love Ron because
John, I'm a big fan of yours, by the way,
you-
with the nation.
thank you, I appreciate it, brother. And
Admire your work.
I've been following you, and I admire your work. And I want to tell you very seriously that the people that are out there in the barbershops and on the street, these are the people we need to be listening to, not
Absolutely.
big donors in LA,
Yes, sir.
not
Yes, sir.
media folks on the New York Times op-ed page, not me. I mean, we need to be listening to people that are out there doing it. And frankly, if you want to say at a certain point, we got to get beyond all this discussion, and we got to get to a simple, basic message. And frankly, I'll close off with my message for Joe Biden, which I wish he would say every day, is tax the rich so we can expand Social Security. Change the discussion. No, but I say that seriously. Change the discussion so that your answer to your question is, well, do you think you're capable of being president? Tax the rich so that we can expand Social Security. Well, what do you think about this? Tax the rich so we can expand Social Security. It's that you need a coherent theme going forward, and that at a certain point, people will mock you, they will dismiss you, they will attack you, but then they will at some point say, oh, hold it. What do you mean by this tax the rich so we can expand Social Security? Are you saying that we can go after the billionaires and get a whole bunch of money and then use that money so that folks who've been working their whole lives can retire not at 68 or 69 or 70, but at 62, and that we can expand Medicare so that it gives you dental and vision and all the other things that you need, and we can actually create a good safety net for people who've worked all their lives in this country? And suddenly you start to have that discussion, and you know what just happened when I said that? For a second there, we forgot about all the questions about whether Biden.
Absolutely.
And because we're talking about something real. And that's my bottom line. My bottom line is start talking about real stuff, saying it again and again, so that you shift the discussion toward something that's almost unheard of in American politics, and that is policy.
Get the right advisors.
Doing something good for the people.
The advisors can't just live in Washington. You need to talk to John, who's in Wisconsin, Representative Reynolds, who's down in Texas. You need to talk to people. I mean, because I drive outside of Chicago, they grow corn here. Okay. Yeah. So this is, they play country and Western, not Shania Twain, Patsy Cline.
Oh, yeah.
Chicago. I mean, I ain't mad because I'm a musician, so I love them all. I'm just saying America's a mix of things, and people caring for their loved ones, either they're in their old age or they're young. We're doing all kinds of things, and we can understand it, but give us a chance.
That's right. And I do have to go.
I love you, John.
When Ron's running for governor of Texas, I can't wait to write that story. And there's so many more that come. And Santita, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it so much.
I love you. Well, we're getting back to this, so you open up your Tuesdays again, so we can do. So you can have your moment again, or whatever day's going to work.
When Santita is marching, I'm ready to march.
I'm ready.
Okay, I gotta go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sending you so much love. God bless you.
Bless you too.
Ron Reynolds, what is the closing statement you'd like to make before we go?
Well, Santita,
Texas State Representative.
Hey, listen, I am so excited to have this discussion and dialogue because these are the issues that people are really talking about. And I'm so happy that you give voice to the barbershop because often those brothers' voices aren't heard. Like we hear from about the major donors, the elected officials, the influencers, but it's the rank and file people. It's the everyday, person, like you said, the cashier who is ringing up the person that can't afford the groceries herself. Those are the people whose voice goes unheard. And so let's continue to do everything we can to give them a voice, because those are the people that are going to be impacted the most with these elections, right? And so I want us to continue to do what we can to make sure that our system is fair for the people at the bottom, not the 3%ers, the well off, the well to do, but the least, the last, and the lost. Those are the people's whose voices that we have to continue to be mindful of. Bubba and the people who they're not able to tune in to MSNBC. They don't subscribe to the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. They're just trying to keep the lights on, for Pete's sake. They're trying to keep their kids out of trouble. They're trying to make sure that their daughter doesn't get pregnant in high school. So I'm really fired up. I'm looking forward to continue to do everything I can to get people woke to vote their values, and to make sure that we have a system that's fair for everyone, not that's rigged for Biden or Trump or anyone else, but that allows for a free and fair election so that people's voices can truly be heard. And we have a representative government that lives up to what it's supposed to, Santita. And you are a beacon of hope, a beacon of light that uses this platform to talk about those issues that mainstream media doesn't cover. And I appreciate you so much. And the level of insight that your guests have, the C.K. Hofflers and the John Nichols and others who you have frequently as guests that aren't talking heads, that aren't just bought and paid for, that are just saying the company line. That's when you're free and liberated, you can speak truth to power. I can criticize Biden because I'm not a spoken paid person that is going to just say propaganda, and that allows me to be real and authentic on your show, as opposed to a lot of people come on those shows. They're just reading the message that was given to them, and they're basically singing the company line. So no, there are issues that President Biden has, and those issues need to be addressed candidly and with transparency. And you can't allow the press secretary to be your scapegoat. You need to be real and man enough to answer these questions yourself with transparency. And that's the only way you're going to rebuild credibility that has, quite frankly, been lost. And that is the barbershop talk. The credibility has been lost. And Absolutely. If it's not restored, there will be a President Trump again in November. So Democrats better wake up. They better get real. They better stop, with their eyes closed, wishful thinking. People are paying attention, and people ain't dumb, right? People can read, people can see, and they ain't falling for the okie doke. And so we need to make sure that we are addressing those issues in an authentic way so that we rebuild credibility that has been lost.
Well, I'm right here with you, because we all have relatives who've been.
Yes.
You can drive down the street in the Black communities and in the indigenous communities. You see diabetes. They call it the Black trifecta: diabetes, heart disease. I forget the other. I mean, we deal with all of this, but nobody's going to tell the preacher to step out the pulpit. The soul is not to grab the mic at church. No one's going to ask, oh, wait a minute, you're not trying to put Big Mama away because she got sugar, diabetes? No. You want to figure out, okay, now how? Well, she's working too hard right now, so we're going to let her sit. That's what we do. And that's what I want with my president. I'm like, hey, you know what? He's struggling right now. Everybody shut up. Let him slow down. You hush and let him get it out. When he freezes, when you have Parkinson's, you freeze. This is not episodic. It is chronic. He does have that. Anybody can see it. Enough. So what? I'm not willing to throw him out with the bathwater. I would rather have Roosevelt in a wheelchair than Reagan on a horse, who had cognitive issues himself when he ran the first time. Enough, y'all. Nobody's perfect. If you want perfection, you be that. How about that? Why don't you get out and jog? Why don't you not eat that bad food? Oh, no, but bad food, processed food is cheaper for us. Hello. So here we are. So just, stop. And stop making Corinne Jean-Pierre your whipping girl. No, you all already know the Washington press corps knew that he had problems from jump. It was the biggest open secret in Washington ever. Stop it. You all have mamas, daddies, or older people in your lives, and it's not age. We have a cancer epidemic. People, I mean, you saw a man who was very healthy, Damar Hamlin, who dropped dead on the football field. And he coded out again after they revived him on the field when they got him beyond the gates. But we still wanted him to come back. And even though he can't really play anymore, we want the NFL to find a role for him because he can be useful. God can use you wherever you are.
That's right.
And God uses you because of who you are. For everything that you are or not, that's how God uses you. Every hurt and every happiness makes you who you are. God uses us in spite of ourselves and because of ourselves. Uses it all for God's glory, if that's what you're going for. That's what I'm going for. I don't mind someone struggling. I don't mind you being sick. No, I don't mind that at all. I don't think anybody does. Just tell the truth. You can't call Donald Trump a liar when you lying like this. You can't stop. Everybody has lied. Trump told untruths in the debate, and so did Biden. Enough. Did Trump tell many more? Yes. But just stop. Y'all, who's going to help the poor? Who's going to rebuild our public schools? Who's going to give us Medicare for all? The primary driver of bankruptcies in this country, your medical bills. I can't take it. Who's going to go after corporate America and make them stop willy-nilly resetting the prices so they can make more money? I cannot afford this. And because we continue to pay, they continue to jack up the prices. So I can't afford a house, a car, or rent. I'm working 2 and 3 jobs. It's not enough. Who's going to speak to that? Who's going to confront these banks? And we need to confront them too, because we need to march on these banks too. He tried to move the needle on student debt. And for people who say, well, I got debt, and so they ought to be, you know what? You shouldn't have debt. Whatever you say about Muammar Gaddafi, guess what? If you wanted to go to school, no, the state paid for it. Because they felt that an educated populace was going to help Libya grow. See, part of the reason they want to dumb down Americans is so that you won't move the needle on the revolution. You won't really create a democracy here. Remember, educated people are hard to manage. But if I keep you anesthetized, just looking at entertainment, caught up in the Real Housewives who don't behave like housewives, because housewives, I know, because my mama was one, they're working hard every day. They ain't just sitting around pinkies in the air, talking junk and creating mischief in each other's lives, including their own. Nobody does that. So they're playing games with us, y'all. America's Got Talent, The Voice, as if you can have one shot on a show and be a superstar. No, Aretha had to sing a long time. Roberta had to sing a long time. Gladys Knight, Bonnie Raitt, Liza Minnelli, Judy Garland. Hey, y'all. Nothing happens overnight. So we stop with the lies, everybody. Just get out here and work and swing wide open the gates of opportunity, as Dorothy Height said. So that when you work, you have a chance of getting through. Don't be afraid of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and affirmative action. You darn tootin', I'm an affirmative action baby, because it was affirmed that I couldn't get in the door. How about that? And to show you how effective and important it is, look at who's fighting you on it. The people who are fighting you on it, and who are trying to close the door, are the ones who are already there. led by communities who over-index in their population. There are more of them percentage-wise in these schools than there are in the rest of the population. And you want to lock me out? No, you push back on affirmative action. Well, I'm afraid that they'll think I'm not qualified. Everybody knows, as you said, Representative Reynolds, that I got to be overqualified in order to be here.
That's right.
Just stop it, y'all. Wait, come on. What? That means that don't even try that. Don't try me on that. Stop playing. Stop playing. Here our forebears fought for us to get affirmative action, and that's the conservative remedy to all the racism that kept us locked out. They fought for us to get diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now you're going to be ashamed of it. Don't be foolish. America, most of the world is colored. And the colored world is rising. And America's behind the eight ball because everybody in the world is here. But we're busy trying to keep people out of medical school and out of law school and not trying to train teachers. We're trying to figure out how to deny people opportunities instead of being a beacon of light unto the world. We want to create wars instead of having the best healthcare system in the world. My mother, Ron Reynolds, said, you know what would it be like if America was the place that you went to get well? No one would bomb us. We'd have no terrorist threats because we'd know that I can send my mom. I can go someplace and get well. I remember when my grandmother was getting her hip replaced. She was at the Mayo Clinic. You know who was there? King Hussein of Jordan, who was a friend. So we went up to see him because out of all the places in the world, when he was fighting cancer, he came to the Mayo Clinic here. What if we had Mayo Clinics everywhere? We could do that. But you can't do it and have war all the time. Every place else, you can't do it. Everybody, it's time to change your mind about the society you've got. It's your decision. You choose or you will lose. It's that simple. I hope that the White House is listening. Y'all do listen. And I hope you are listening. I hope you hear us when we tell you what it is that you need to be doing. And what you need to be doing is just saying, hey, you know what? This is what you got. We've had the neurologist here. We've been trying to figure out how to keep him going. My father's trying to keep going. So we're at the doctor. We're fighting. Ain't no harm in that. It would be devastating to people if they saw him give up. We wheel him into churches on Sunday, and people are like, I'm so glad to see him. Yeah, because they want to see you fight because I don't know what you're dealing with. You helping someone else to keep fighting too. He wouldn't have to run. We'd carry him on our shoulders. We'd champion him if he were our champ. You can't be a chump and a champ at the same time. Don't chump out and say, no, nothing to see here. No, just say, you know what, y'all, sit down and have a fireside chat. I'm struggling. You see me freezing, but you know what? I am fighting for you. I've learned some things with my illness. I've learned some things. It's made me more humble. It's made me more understanding. And you know what? Some positions I took 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, I'm not going to take today because I see life from a very different place. So would you all help me? Man, he would change the world. He would change the world. I pray to God he'll take that opportunity. You know what, Pamela, you said if everyone on President Joe Biden's team did not feel that their jobs were in jeopardy, then they would push more interviews and public appearances. Because you know what they're doing, Pamela? Representative Reynolds, they said that they were going to vet everyone in the audience and they wanted smaller audiences. Who does that? You can't hide. People already know. People knew when Muhammad Ali was standing up in the ring, moving through the 70s into the 80s, that he was taking too many hits, and we saw it. And we worried. And then he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And ironically enough, who met him at the hospital? My dad. In 1984. You can't make this stuff up. Oh, look at God. Just, y'all, please. Well, Pam, you said, you know, they should be pushing for more interviews and public appearances. You said for Joe Biden, there's always a Condoleezza Rice in the mix to bring integrity to a losing ticket, and we are in the business of healing Alzheimer's and Parkinson's diseases. I hear you. Just say it. Yeah, and Chaparral, they're trying to hide him from the public. It ain't working. And like I said, all we need to do is go to these go to the barbershops, because homeboy and homegirl will tell, in the beauty shops, they will tell you what they think, because they already know, because we're living with this stuff. Representative Reynolds, everybody's got a family member who's got some kind of illness that we got to manage.
That's right.
I'm not trying to throw my brother away because he's got bipolar disorder. I'm trying to figure out how he can live with it and how I can help him do it. My father, okay, he's got Parkinson's. That means we got Parkinson's. Okay, so what do we do? How many family meetings have we had with the medical team? I can't tell you. We're just trying to figure out how to keep him going, because that keeps him going. Oh, Jesse's got bipolar disorder. Oh, okay. Oh, and Santita's going to have surgery because we can't figure out how to, she's putting on weight and she can't figure it out. And oh no, she's not really eating. Oh, so she's messed up her metabolism because she's dieted so much. She's eating so little. Now the fat cells are holding on. And now, she might have congestive heart failure. We can't lose her. As my father said to me, I ain't burying no children. I ain't going to do that. So we'll have to figure this out. And my father, who doesn't take a day off of work, came with me, Representative Reynolds, to California to get my surgery. He was there with me for a week. He said, baby, it's going to be okay. So you know what? I do that with him now. Daddy, it's all right. Take your time, slow down so we can understand you. Daddy, you know you went out last night, so you know that's going to impair you in the morning. I'm not willing to throw my daddy out. I want to keep him here as long as I can. You know what? If I have to carry him in my arms, I will do it. I will do it. I pray for that family. And I want them to have the courage to step forward and say what they're dealing with. And then we can deal with it. Stop playing. And stop giving him whatever drugs you gave him so he can appear at the State of the Union. Just stop it. We can deal with it. What we can't deal with is the obfuscation. It's not telling the truth. I can't help you if you don't tell me the truth. Can't help you. And you can't help me if you're lying. I'm not afraid of Trump. I'm not afraid of anyone, because whoever gets in, I got to fight you. Because I got to fight for me. I ain't mad at you. So for all y'all who's saying, Trump's most, didn't have democracy in this primary process, Representative Reynolds, because you didn't let people run. You blocked everybody from running. So now you got a mess.
That's right.
Bobby Kennedy should be in the mix on the Democratic side. Then let him be open to the marketplace of ideas. And if people are going to vote for him, they're going to vote for him. And if they're not, they're not. Okay, that's all right. Cornel West should not have said Democrats aren't even an option for me because they're not going to be fair. Are you for real? Y'all shut down Bernie. I saw you shut down Reverend Jackson. Stop. Y'all, look, this ain't working. And in the meantime, people are starving. So the last word belongs to you, Representative Reynolds. What do you want us to do? I can't wait for you to get to Chicago.
Hey, I'm really, wow. The stakes got so much bigger for Chicago. I am looking forward to getting there early so I can be a part of the Rainbow Push events. So I was talking to Commissioner Ellis about that. He said he'll be there for it. So we're excited and looking forward to seeing the Jackson family. And but yeah, I mean, all hands on deck. We can't wait for someone to save us. We're the ones that we've been waiting on. You know, we can't wait for the next Obama or the next Malcolm or the next, Dr. King or the next Jesse Jackson. We must be the change that we want to see. And all of us have a role to play. We can't armchair quarterback. We got to be on the field and be engaged in the fight, in the struggle. We cannot allow on our watch to go back to those dark days. So we must press forward, and we must be energized, inspired, and do everything that we can to save our democracy. If not for us, for those coming behind us.
Absolutely.
And so I'm looking forward to continue to work with you and others who are like-minded to do everything we can to keep pushing back. And in the words of John Lewis, making good and necessary trouble. I don't mind making some good trouble when it's for a good cause, and certainly saving our democracy is a good cause. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in person.
Oh,
And are you still going to be in Vegas?
I am. Are you going there?
Yes.
Well, when are you getting to Vegas?
I get in Vegas on Friday night.
Okay, let me know because I think the debate begins at 5.
At 5 on Friday?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Then I may need to try to adjust my flight because I'm
If
scheduled.
you can, so I can bring you.
Yeah. Let me work on that. I'll work on that because currently I'm scheduled to be in Vegas on Friday and Friday evening, Friday night. So I need to see if I can adjust it. I know the NBA is going to be having their convention, and I guess that's why CK will be there.
And then NAACP.
Yeah. That's why I was going. I'm a national board member for the NACP, and our convention is there.
I'm
So
going to come through there on Saturday before I leave.
well, let's do it.
Yeah, because come on, because
I
Bob
will.
Kennedy
Let me
was
work
the
on get my my flight
Yeah.
adjusted. So I'm gonna work on that today. Thank you for.
And then I'll get you a ticket, and
Okay.
we can all you can
Yeah.
meet us.
Daryl still going, right? Daryl.
Yeah, you'll be my +1 too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna work on my schedule today.
Absolutely. And
All right.
call me and let me know.
All right. Thanks, Santita.
See, we were working everything out here. So
Yay.
the debate, Coretta Brown, it's the free and equal debate. I'm going to reach out to them and try and have them back on. This is an organization that has been pushing to get as many viable candidates on the stage as possible. So Bobby Kennedy is going to actually open up the debate with a speech. And then you're going to have Jill Stein and several other people who are on ballots all over the country. Cornel West will be speaking at the event. It's called Freedom Fest. But this is the free and equal debates. It's on Friday. It's going to be on. I'm going to open it up with the national anthem. And then they're going to have the debates itself. And it'll be on C-SPAN. It'll be on several other networks. I'll let you know because it's going to be televised. And I think you'll get a whole lot out of it because you will be hearing more from more candidates. And they did invite President Trump, former President Trump, and President Biden, because we should have as many people on the stage as we can, right? So that's what we're going for. And I'm glad that you go to. Hopefully, if you can change your schedule.
Yeah, let me work. I'm gonna work on that today because I want to be there.
Oh yeah, I think, and plus, I want you to meet some of these people.
Yes.
Who I'm meeting because we should be knowing each other and working
That's right.
with each other. And so there's that. So I will be there, but I will be on the air, everybody.
Yay.
So sending you so much love. Let me know today.
All right. Thank you, Santita.
Okay, because
All
I
right.
leave
Take care.
early tomorrow morning.
Okay, I will do. Thank you.
Oh, all right, sweetie. Bye-bye. Love you all. Love you, Morning Stars. What do they say?